The fact that AI is democratizing the execution of creative makes the skills that I have spent a lifetime building up almost entirely worthless now. My value and creative value in general is becoming what's in here. The ideas that you can come up with are so much more valuable than your chops on a bit of software. So the last thing on earth I want to be is reliant on AI for that as well.
Today, we're taking a ride through the wonderful, quirky mind of Dave Officer, and he's an illustrator, a graphic design maestro, and he describes himself as a flutter of ideas. So, we're going to be discussing Dave's opinions on AI in the creative industry, and it's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'm excited to talk to Dave because he's got a great sense of humor. He makes really creative, entertaining content. And humor is definitely something that is lacking when we start talking about AI. So, welcome, Dave.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, let's get straight into it. When we're talking about AI, the huge promise really is that it's going to make us all more productive. And recently, I've heard you speak about Parkinson's law. So, that is the idea that the time that you give work expends to the allocated time. But tell us a bit about your thoughts on that, because I believe that you're now doing 4-day working weeks instead of 5-day working weeks.
Yeah, I mean, technically, the fifth day, it's still technically work. It just doesn't feel like it. So I realize it's about 4 years now that I've consistently been creating content for social media. And when I realized, I mean, I've been doing it for a while before it started to gain any sort of traction or interest. But when it did, I realized very quickly how useful it was as a marketing tool and as something that could help bring leads into my little freelance business. So I thought, okay, this is great. Let's start taking this seriously. And I find a route or shall I say, like a delivery method to getting the ideas across, which was to be flippant, really, with a lot of the ideas that I wanted to put across and just be a bit tongue in cheek and not take myself too seriously. And when I find that sweet spot, I really started to enjoy creating those videos for whatever platforms I was putting them out in. And I noticed it had a couple of benefits. One was it's a marketing tool, so it was generating interest for what I did and bringing in leads. Great, tick, lovely. And the other thing was that it was giving me my own sort of creative outlets, because when I was sitting down to create those things, there's no one telling me what to do or what not to do. Just know it's a good thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing, but it's a freeing thing. And for your own mental state and your own sort of creative mind, it's incredibly liberating and incredibly enjoyable. So I give myself that little bit of freedom to create those and just create something daft for my own sort of amusement. And so obviously that's beneficial because it was bringing in work, but it was also beneficial that when I went back to client work the day after or a couple of days after or whatever it was, I was reinvigorated because I'd given myself this time to just play with an idea that had no real purpose. I mean, if you watch any of my videos, there's rarely a point to any of them. It's just really an excuse for me to faff about and enjoy and just play about with like different ideas and different little techniques. So it has this sort of multiple benefits for me. It gives me the time to be creative, to bring in, and it brings in leads to the business. And it also helps me then be more creative when I hit the client work again, because I've allowed myself that time to be creative. So when I realized it had all of those benefits, that I make absolutely sure every week that I'd prioritize time for it, because it's so useful for me to have a day out every week to put time into that. I don't really put one video out a week because I spend I mean, a lot of time on that one video. And also I think there's just much crap posted on social media that I don't need to be adding too much noise to it. One thing a week is more than enough. Yes, that was a long-winded answer, but I hope it was
No,
a
so you're not actually working 4 days, but you've compressed your client work to just 4 days.
yeah. I realized so the Parkinson's law thing you were talking about. I
Mm.
didn't realize it was a thing really until I started doing it, and then I can't remember how it came to light. But it means that the work that you do will expand to the amount of time you allocate for it. So I was in a bit of a privileged position, and I realized not a lot of people are in this, but they're either employed or just their circumstances differ. They might not be able to apply it in the exact same way that I have, but I think everybody can apply it in some way. So what I did was I am self-employed. I work from home. This is my little home office that I'm sitting in. So I was working on client work 5 days a week. I decided, could I still complete the same amount of work that I'm doing in 4 days? Let's just see what happens. So I decided I was going to do it from the next week. I said, right, the Wednesday of that week, I will not, I won't do single bit of client work. I will fit it in the Monday, the Tuesday, the Thursday, and the Friday, and the Wednesday I will put aside, and I will just work on my own idea for content, whatever that was. And I found that transition really easy, like terrifyingly easy. It didn't feel like this massive shift that I was making. And because I consider myself quite a hard worker, but I just, there isn't a single person alive that is on it every minute of the day when they're working. There's so many things that are vying for our attention and distracting us. So whatever you are achieving in the 8 hours, 9 hours, however long you're sitting at your desk, you're not being like 100% productive the entire time. So if you put hard and fast deadlines on yourself and you really stick to them, you can always fit more into that allotted time. More often than not, you can fit that in. So anyway, I just said, right, I'm going to fit, I've still got the same amount of projects on. Let's just see if I can achieve X, Y, and Z in the 4 days next week and rather than the 5. And it just worked. It just worked. And I know everybody's circumstances are slightly different, so I'm not saying that would work for everybody, but even if you say to yourself, on a Friday, I will have a half day on a Friday and I will concentrate on marketing ideas for my business or something else that I can just play around with. I do think it's doable for a lot of people. Obviously, there's a point where it's no longer doable. I can't shave off another day and then another day. Obviously, there becomes a point where that law stops applying because it becomes ridiculous. But there will be a point for everybody where you can just like take it and apply it. But it's been pretty useful for me.
This is what I wanted to talk about productivity. We sometimes we struggle to find positive things about AI. But one thing is, if we could all be more productive, if we could use these tools, then maybe we could do something like you do and then spend that fifth day doing something truly creative without the client that helps you with all the other benefits that you've talked about. And I don't know if we're there yet, but this is the question really. So are you at this point using AI to help you be more productive?
I am in little ways. For example, there was something the other day I needed to put a load of data together for something, and I had loads of names together in like a list format, and I just need to separate them by a comma to put them into this website so we could then format them in some sort of way. And it's little things like that where I can just throw a list into ChatGPT and say, separate all these names for a comma. And it does it, and then I copy and paste it and put it in rather than me typing it out. There's loads of little things like that. I've got a custom GPT that I use, which is I don't remember the name for it. It's just a convert. It's called Convert Anything, and any sort of file format that you've got that you then want to convert into something else, you can throw into there and say, convert this to an MP4 for me or whatever it is, and it will take it, convert it, and then give you a download link, and then you've got it. So there's loads and loads of little things like that I use it for that save me. And even when I'm in the sort of concept, if I'm just talking to someone about an idea, I haven't even got that client on board yet. If they come to me with something they want to do and I go, oh, I know exactly what you should do, A, B, and C, I can put together a really quick image on something like Midjourney to give them a very rough idea of the kind of thing I'm thinking of, just to get them over the line. Whereas before, people with just a lot of blind faith into the fact that I knew what I was doing and the idea would make sense. Whereas you can help them visualize it incredibly quickly. So it's very useful for stuff like that. So there are all sorts of, I don't really have a structured way that I'm using it that I put into place every single day, but there are definitely a myriad of different little things like the bits I've just mentioned that are 100% helping me just be a bit quicker every day. But I haven't really got to the stage yet where I've got like automated functions set up for things. It's just loads of little sporadic, weird scenarios that pop up. And I think I can do that really fast, actually, if I just do. As long as I have ChatGPT here inside of my brain occasionally, and if anything mundane comes up, that's why I love AI. It's for the mundane stuff. I'm not necessarily a fact that it seems to be being used for a lot of creative things first. But if it can help me with some mundane stuff, I am all in. Bring it on.
Yeah, I'd say I'm the same really. It helps a lot with writing. I think the most valuable thing that creatives can use it for at the moment is probably writing, or the LLMs, like even if it's just adding a comma to stuff, it's productivity, stuff like that. But it was interesting, like you use it in a way that I wouldn't. So you mentioned that like before you've got a client, if I understood, like you can quickly come up with the idea that's in your head and send them something to look at. And do you do that before they're on board?
Sometimes they're very obviously stating that, by the way, I have just knocked this up with AI, but it's to give you and what I create will be very different than this, but it's just to give you an idea of what's in my head. It's a very rough idea of what's in my head.
Yeah, I always try and hold off to do anything, show them anything until after they've paid. Because once you show them something, they can have a reaction that's either, yeah, oh, that's going in the right direction, or, oh, I don't like that. And then you can find yourself in a, well, no,
No. I know exactly what you mean. You get a feeling for whether you're dealing with that sort of person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You get a feeling that you're dealing with someone who's savvy enough to know you can show them something and they'll still understand that I know you will approach this in a very different way, but that's enough to get me to get my head around what you're doing. So I definitely don't do it for everybody, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so I mean, you recently made a video about an exercise that you do and it helped you with your content creation where you write down 10 ideas a day. So for anyone that's not seen that, can you explain what that idea is about?
Yes. I first came across this from a guy that I adore on Instagram called Pablo Rocha, who I was first made aware of him in the pandemic when he was doing loads of odd little videos that were going crazy on Instagram. And he was doing just weird stuff with pigeons. It's very hard to explain, but like funny little videos. And I was watching an interview with him, and he was talking about the fact that he writes down 10 ideas every single day, and it keeps his mind sharp. And then I did a bit of research into it, and I found where he got that idea from, and it just read into the sort of the benefit from it. Essentially, on a sheet of paper or on an app on your phone or whatever you find the easiest thing to write down ideas of, you just write 10 ideas every day. These are the ones I did this morning. You get into a habit. This is the way I do it. First thing every morning, I'll set a timer for 10 minutes and I have to write down 10 ideas. And it doesn't matter how bad they are, how relevant they are to anything. Just write down 10 things. And they could be around anything. I've got a ton of different subjects that I write ideas around, and it's just get 10 things out of your head. Just do it. And as a result of that, when you get into a habit of doing that frequently, this is certainly the way I find it anyway. It's rewired my brain in a way that it's always looking for connections. My brain is always preparing for, we need to write down 10 ideas tomorrow morning. So when you're out and about during the day, or you're sitting watching TV, or you're scrolling on your phone or whatever, it's always fresh. It's always like sitting in the background, just watching what's going on, going, oh, do you remember that thing we saw earlier? We could connect it with that and make this new thing didn't we? Right. So it's there, sitting on the starting blocks, just ready to go, and looking for odd little connections all the way through the day. And it's like any other muscle. You train it enough, you do enough reps with it, that it just gets better at finding connections between seemingly unconnected things and helping you throw those ideas together. The more and more I did it, the better and better I got at it. And when I'm in scenarios where I'm sitting and people want you to think of ideas, you've either got a list of thousands of them that you've already created. Sometimes you'll write an idea down that at the time seems stupid and will never be useful for anything, but you could be on a call with someone like this in 3 months' time, and someone could say something, and that will pop back up into your head, and you'll go, "Oh, I know it would work for you." So it has all sorts of benefits, I've found anyway. And what I tend to do is at the end of each month, I will go through them all and pick out the ones I do. And some months that is it. It's slim pickings. You'll pick out just some that you think, do you know what? I actually want to take that and do something with it, really do something with it. And the rest are just there as fodder. It was just to get that crap out of your head in the first day. But again, you never know when even one that you look at and looks like total shit on the surface could actually come back later down the line and be useful for something. So I have found that like an invaluable practice. So I do that. I do go through stages where I don't do it and stages where I do. I like anybody, I go through stages where I am just flat and there's nothing going on up here and I can't be arsed. But the beauty of doing this is when I do hit those flat periods, I've got 3 or 4 months previous where I've just been prolific of writing things down. So when I enter periods of complete and utter dryness in terms of ideas, I've got all tons and tons of notes that I can go back on and pull out ideas from when new ones just aren't coming.
Yes. I think that's really great. And so I was wondering whether AI can help with that, the brainstorming part of it. But then you get into kind of dangerous territory, right? The beauty of it is that you're exercising a muscle, you're exercising your brain, your creativity. I mean, undoubtedly, if you were stuck, really one day you could go to ChatGPT and say, give me 10 ideas around this theme. But then we're getting into kind of dangerous territory, aren't we?
Yeah. I don't think I will ever do that. Because it completely defeats the purpose for me, asking a machine to come up with the ideas. The whole reason I do this is to make this better. And I see the fact that AI is democratizing the execution of creative makes the skills that I have spent a lifetime building up almost entirely worthless now. So my value and creative value in general is becoming what's in here. And the ideas that you can come up with are so much more valuable than you're chopped on a bit of software. They're every year that passes now, how proficient you are on something like Illustrator or something like Blender or something like Premiere Pro or DaVinci or whatever it is, how good you are on that software is going to become increasingly more irrelevant with each passing year, which is depressing, but it's just the fact of the matter. It's the way things are going. So I think it's how good you are coming up with ideas is where our value lies now. So the last thing on earth I want to be is reliant on AI for that as well, because that sounds very bleak to me. But the point is that I don't want to use AI for anything that I enjoy. If I enjoy the process, then I don't want to streamline that process. I don't want that process to become more efficient. I don't want to reverse engineer that process to the point where it becomes this sort of formulaic, sterile, where it means nothing and I just have to press a button and I've got some idea. Great. Shoot me in the face immediately if that becomes, because it's taking all the joy out of it for me. But I will use AI every day, so the stuff that I'm not interested in, which is the same reason that I'm a huge fan of AI, but I can't get on my high horse about being pissed off about people using it to do the stuff that I do for a living, because I will happily use it to create a spreadsheet, right? But I know people who adore creating spreadsheets. And from their point of view, they wouldn't want to use AI for that because that's something they enjoy. But they would want to use it for sitting down creating ideas that they probably hate that and aren't very good at it. So it's got a place for all of that stuff. And I can't get pissy about it for doing the things that I enjoy, because for somebody else, that's the mundane stuff. So I think you just have to find where it works for you, and it will do the stuff you enjoy for other people. But those people will always exist. So the people who want things done quickly and inexpensively, because they don't really see value in what you do or what I do, or those people will always exist. They've always existed. That's why websites like Fiverr exist. So people can find someone who will do something fast and cheap, and because they don't see value in it in the first place. So AI will replace those people. It will replace the people who would have done it quick and cheap in the first place. But I wouldn't have wanted to work with those people anyway. So if they want to go and use AI, crack on. They need someone to help them think of the ideas in the first place. Because when we get to the stage where AI is going to be so good, and you're sitting looking at a screen that's got a blank prompt thing. What's the word I'm looking for? A blank prompt bar. And you've got a keyword in front of you, and you can essentially create anything. That's quite overwhelming. Type any selection of letters on your keyboard, and this thing will just create it for you. Like, how many people would sit in front of that prompt bar for weeks, just blank face? Where do I start with that? I don't know what to do with that. You need someone who's decent at ideas for all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
You asked me, I just went off on a rant.
No, it was a great rant. I mean, people are struggling there's so much to talk about in that. But I mean, who are the people, say you've got your blank prompt box, for lack of a better word, but yeah, who are the people that are going to do that? Are suddenly the business people that enjoy making spreadsheets? Are they going to be the creatives now? I mean, they could be, but they don't want to be.
Yeah.
This is a thing, like, they don't even want to do it. And I like what you said, don't use AI for anything that you enjoy.
I don't know why you would, because part of creating, so illustration is something that I do, and I enjoy every part of the illustrative process. I enjoy the dirty sketches when you're trying to figure out how it works, and then you remember you're a bit shit at anatomy, so you've got to draw a hand 15,000 times before you get it looking right. But you do all that shit, but it makes the final image just so much more rewarding, because you've spent all that time like chipping away at trying to figure out how to not make something look off. And you've mucked around, and you've mucked around with the pose and the facial features, and then you got this thing, and when you put the finishing touches to it, and it's such a rewarding process. But for me, applying a shortcut to that process just seems so wrong. But to someone else, it will open up a whole world of possibilities to them. So they should 100% be able to do that and crack on. But I suppose my main concern is, I'm sure you've spoken about this on here as well. You've heard of the whole dead internet theory, I'm assuming.
No, tell me about it.
Have you not? Okay.
No.
The dead internet theory is that in a few years' time, the internet will essentially become almost entirely unusable, because it will be AI creating content and other AIs engaging with that content. And it will just be us on the sideline going, what the fucking point in it? So we'll all leave and go and do something else. But the actual internet as it stands now will become a mess. So if Facebook is showing very early signs of this now, and without surprising anybody, Facebook as it stands now has an older audience, right? An audience that are less savvy about this sort of technology than audiences on other platforms. So there is an absolute deluge of horrendous AI generated images on Facebook A lot of them to do with Jesus. These weird images of Jesus and holding like a "It's my birthday today" sign, even it not being Christmas, just weird clickbaity, horrible things. But it just gets all this engagement from people that are like, "Oh my God, I love Jesus," and weird shite where there's just someone pumping out the pictures of the military and stuff to just get people to just go, "Oh my God, I love our boys." And do you see all these like little janky AI images? But no one who's engaging with these images on Facebook is savvy enough to know what the hell's going on. So, and get the post going, there's bots that start the engagement rally off on these images, and then all of a sudden, some people get involved, going, "Oh my God, this is amazing." But it's the theory is that will just be the entire internet soon. Images will be created by AI, videos will be created by AI, music will be created by AI. And when you then look at all the comments and people engaging with them, it's all going to be AI bots going, "My God, this is great." And we're not going to know where the humans are. So we could all very quickly become so disengaged with anything we see online that we just stop using it. And then what happened? So I'm already seeing, I mean, when I see someone post an AI image, it's still very obvious when something is an AI generated image. When I see it, I lose all interest in whatever the hell they're talking about, because I've seen so many of them now that I'm so dead to them. I just find them so dull. The fact that you've just put in a prompt and used whatever it's come up, and there it goes. You haven't done anything with it. You haven't, if you wanted to use it for a bit of inspiration and maybe like take a part of it and create on something else, but you've just used a generated image and put it on a little post on LinkedIn, and that it dulls me to tears. So I am completely switched off from it, and I could see other people getting that way with other AI generated content very quickly. So you can conceive of a world in the not too distant future where we are all apathetic with every single thing we see online, and we stop wanting to engage with everything that we're seeing. And then what the hell do we look at on our phone? So that's the dead internet theory, which is a very real possibility and quite terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I've not heard it called that before. I've not heard it called the dead internet, but obviously it's an issue. And even LinkedIn, I find this ridiculous. LinkedIn are promoting an AI feature as a premium option that you can just have it write your response to people's content.
Worst.
And you're just like, in theory, you're a social media platform, and you're taking away the social aspect of your own platform. It's like, do you have no understanding of what your business
where people are so desperate to shoehorn an AI feature into what they offer that they're shoehorning this absolute shit like this in. It's of no use to anybody. AI's brilliant, right? I'm such a big fan of what it's going to do for us, but at the minute, it's being used for stuff that's just pissing people off, and stuff like that. That fucking LinkedIn feature, they have the most banal comments that you would never type on someone's. You would have to just be the dullest human imaginable to start a conversation with one of those prompts. So it's turning people off AI. You've got obviously the people who are early adopters, and they're trying to get into every little aspect of it and really keeping their eye on it. And I'm one of them, but I find myself occasionally also getting really bored with it but it's because people are shoehorning really crap AI things into whatever it is they do, because they just want to be seen to, "Look, we're modern, we're keeping abreast of new technologies, we've got an AI thing, look at this. It might be shit, but we still got it." Well, then don't do it if it's shit. Just wait until you've got a good thing, because you're turning everyone off it. So when it does get to the point where it's really good, or people will be so bored of it, they won't use it. So there's loads of people when we get to the point where everybody can benefit from this, a lot of people won't bother going anywhere near it because they'll be so disillusioned with those two little letters, because I've seen them everywhere implemented poorly. And when we get to the stage where they're going to be like with the next version of ChatGPT or whatever it is, when people start waxing lyrical about how good that is, it's going to fall on a lot of deaf ears, except for people like you and I who are already quite interested in it. Yeah, I just wish people would wait until they've got a really interesting and capable use for it, rather than just trying to shoehorn it into everything, because they're sullying its good name before it's had a chance to prove it, though.
Cool. This kind of leads into the next question I was going to ask you. Like, I mean, I've never heard you describe yourself as a content creator, but you have 25,000 followers on LinkedIn. Like, you create content. I'd imagine that drives a lot of your business, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think it's the way what I was saying earlier about there are hundreds of thousands of hours worth of content uploaded onto each platform every single day, and it's a constant screaming child screaming right in your face, trying to look for attention. Every single post, everybody's trying to just, yeah, it's a lot. And so anytime a new term is brought up to describe something, it's almost immediately cringeworthy, because there aren't many terms left that I'm comfortable using, because as soon as one person says them, another million people say them relentlessly for the next week and a half. And if you find a nice way to describe something, it's almost instantly ruined. So the term content creator makes me want to throw up in my own mouth. There's so many terms that I just have to use because they make sense to people. So if you ever see me say a word and do that while I'm saying it's because I hate almost every term, but it's not the term's fault. It's the fact that there's just so much noise online. So that's probably why I don't, sorry, I don't know why I'm telling you that. That's why I don't use the term content creator, because it's another one of those terms that's overused and it's become associated with really slimy individuals online. So I don't want to associate myself with those. But
Yeah.
essentially I am one of them.
No,
Not slimy.
it's hard to call yourself like, who wants to be a YouTuber or like an influencer? Like, they're like people that you laugh at mostly. But yeah, but you do create great content and it does help. It does help your business, even though we don't have like, a name for it to feel comfortable about. So I wanted to ask you, like, where do you think it's going with? I mean, we've got AI avatars, we've got AI video, we've got AI is doing a lot of things that's taken away the kind of human aspect of it. I mean, what do you think about all that, and what do you think about the future of content creation?
Suppose I'd like to think that it will very quickly reach a point where people will become very disillusioned with it, and then we'll all be like, you know what, can we stop this? And then it'll be stripped back to really basic stuff. What am I trying to say? If when video gets better, when the AI video stuff gets better, it will be everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And I think it will be a while, even though it's about to get exponentially better and really good. But with even with Midjourney, for example, it is exceptionally good, but there is always still a part of an image that's a little bit janky, and you can tell, even though the vast majority of the image it could look stunning, there's always one thing where you're like, I can still tell that's AI. And I think video will be like that, and it will get to a point where it looks amazing. There's still going to be a thing that you'll be able to tell. And I think the video thing will go crazy. As soon as there's a really good one that's publicly available, it will go everywhere. And I think people will very quickly, maybe, become bored with it and just be longing for really simple, stripped back stuff where it's just so obvious it's just a human doing something really basic, and we'll just want to go back to like really simple vines or really simple just photographs on Instagram. We'll just strip it back a little bit more. So that's what I'm hoping will happen. But I think what will probably happen is the dead internet thing will happen before any of that, and then we'll all have to start from scratch, which maybe isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm worried that you can make clones of yourself now. If we get to a point where it's like really hard to detect, that level of content is gonna, and then it stops the real humans creating stuff because, like, how'd you pick the real human out of all the AI crap?
Yeah.
And
And then when you lose trust in it, you'll just stop consuming it. And suppose the only saving grace is when AI gets good enough to produce that sort of content, it will also be good enough to detect it. So it will be using it to detect whether the thing we're looking at is made by AI. But we'll have lost too much trust in what we're looking at that stage. So like all bets will be off. So I'm not entirely sure how we'll navigate that, but I'm still optimistic.
yeah, I mean, maybe we'll all just go and play outside and forget about the internet being a thing. That wouldn't be so bad.
That's also a very real possibility. Maybe we'll all just go and live in the woods.
Cool. Let's talk a little bit about the AI design tools that you do use. So, is there anything that excites you at the moment, or anything that kind of concerns you about AI tools?
In terms of my industry.
Yeah, like it's more like how are you actually using it? So, you've already mentioned you do use Mid Journey at stages. Is there anything else that you having fun experimenting with or using?
I'll tell you what I had fun with a couple of days ago. Have you seen websim.ai?
No, I'm not seeing this one.
Oh, right. When we get off the call, check this out immediately. It's essentially, it's like your own internet, right? So you type in websim.ai and you're confronted with a browser in a browser, effectively. And in the sort of URL bar of this new browser in a browser that you get, you can create a website. So for example, right? I'm looking around your room. What's that yellow thing in the background?
It's dinosaur plant pot. Yeah.
Amazing. Right. Okay. So let's imagine, right? You've got a browser and you wanted to create a website that would suggest what dinosaurs would work best with what plant, right? Why would anyone create that website? But this thing can do it for you. So you would go on and just say, create a website which matches dinosaurs to different plants, and it will create this site for you. And if it creates it and it's got a button that says generate dinosaur, but it doesn't have the button that generates plants, then again, you visit the URL bar again and you say, on the button on the right, make it so I can click it and it will generate a new plant every time. And you hit enter, bang, it there. It's like prompting and real live websites happening while you're prompting. It's amazing. I created a Brian Blessed positive affirmation website at the weekend. I had Brian Blessed at the center of the website, and every time I clicked on him, a little speech bubble would come, and he would shout a positive affirmation at me, and I was just messing around with it. But it's brilliant. It's great crack. I also saw I watched a YouTube video of someone experimenting with it, and they said create a piano synth. It in about 20 seconds, a little MIDI keyboard was on the screen, one octave, and he was hitting the keys and it was making noises. It already had a drop down of a few different sound modules. So he changed it to something else and it changed the sound. He then went up and said, can you give me the option to change the delay and the reverb and the echo and all that kind of stuff? And then it came up with sliders that did all of those things. And it was brilliant. So you can essentially create daft little website ideas and then publish them. And then any bugger can go and visit it and use it. And at the minute, it's still free. And I have no idea how they're doing that. But it's great. And if you want to get an idea of how to use it, just go onto YouTube. There was I can't remember who it was, but if you type websim.ai, you're bound to find a YouTube video of someone using it. And it's great. So like little playing around with little madness like that. And I'm also massively into creating music at the minute. There's a really good friend of mine had his birthday at the weekend. So I just went on to Udio and created a birthday song for him, essentially just slagging him off in the verses and then singing his praises in the chorus. And then I just sent him that as a little birthday present. And now we've started creating diss tracks on each other. we've got like a sort of a little diss track war going on where we just send each other songs, slagging each other off. But it's just for little daft things like that. I am absolutely loving AI for things like that at the minute. So that's I use it for that things like that, which are brilliant. And then I use it to help me do a lot of mundane tasks that I'd rather shoot myself in the face than do.
Mm. This is the exciting thing, isn't it? Like you've already really touched on. Maybe some people love coding a website, but that being able to create things like that really quickly and just getting ideas out your mind. And I think like technology has always influenced design. Like it's always been from the printing press to whatever. It always creates a new aesthetic. So I think it's exciting to be around for a new technology, and will be around for the kind of like a new art movement. Is going to create like new things that we can't even think of. Like everyone's just building a website that Brian Blesses insults people. Like that's the new
Yeah.
design style.
But like that's first idea that came into my head was the dinosaurs and the plants. Even if that popped into your head, you'd be like, that'd be quite funny. If I could just see random combinations of dinosaurs and plants, that'd be funny. You would never pay a developer to make that. That just wouldn't make any sense. It would be stupid. And if you knew how to develop it, you'd probably never spend an entire day or two sitting down to make it, because the overall result just wouldn't be worth it. It'd be pointless. But this thing can do it in a matter of seconds. And if it's just to amuse yourself, in half an hour, you can create it and send it to someone else who also enjoys dinosaurs and plants, and be like, hey, like, I found this thing that will be of no use to anyone ever, but it's made me smile. So I thought I would share it with you. And for little things like that, it's great.
It is, and you touched on a point there, because I try and be positive about AI, right? There's a lot to fucking be afraid of, let's be honest. But it's this idea that we, at the moment at least, we're using AI to do things that weren't possible, or they were possible, but they're not practical. No one's going to build that website, right? But now you can do it. And so it's like designers are scared of it, but maybe we're going to be in a place of more abundant. Like where if you think back to when video went from like analog to digital, people were like afraid because the prices dropped. And we were like, oh, now we have to find more work. But the amount of work exploded, like videos everywhere online. So I hope, I don't know, what do you think about that? Do you think AI is going to bring an explosion of creativity, or do you think it's going to push the price down because you can do it so much quicker?
I think it'll do all of those things. And the funny thing about it is I love watching people try and predict where it's going to go. This just, there isn't a single person alive who's got a fucking clue about where this is going. So to try and prep for it feel ridiculous as well, because it will, wherever you think it's going to go in a completely different direction. That's probably the only guarantee that you've got. And I would say for anybody who is feeling apprehensive about where it's going or afraid of where it's going, then they're probably right to be feeling that. And probably a healthy place to, probably a healthy mindset to have regarding it. So you should, so because of that, you should keep an eye on it. You should be aware of what's happening so you can move with it. Because you're not going to avoid whatever way this changes everything, because it's just, it does seem to be pretty inevitable that it's going to shake up every aspect of how we live. But we haven't got the faintest idea of what that's going to look like. So for me, I know, I'm pretty confident that it's going to mean the skills that I have are going to lose their value. The skills I have in software, Adobe predominantly, I've spent most of my life using Adobe programs, but how proficient I am in Photoshop and Illustrator is about to become just worthless, pretty much. So my value will be in ideas. So that's something I'm working harder on, just being as good as I can at. And when it comes to the content that I create, I've always been of the mindset that I will always put more effort into the videos that I make than than pretty much anybody else that I know that does what I do. I want to put it, I see the videos you're creating. I'm going to put more effort into mine. and I see the work that you're doing for people. I'm going to put more effort into the way I do it. So I'm always trying to do more than people expect or what I expect. And also just keeping an eye on what's going on so I can move with it and or against it, depending on what I feel is probably more appropriate. But yeah, it's about it will shake things up, and some of that will be for the worse, some of it will be for the better. Um, the only problem is none of us know how much which way the scales will swing in terms of the better bits and the worse bits. So we just got to ride it out and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. So I normally wrap up this podcast by asking people's advice, but you've just gave it all there, really. I mean, like to summarize what I heard from you is like creativity and idea generation and your little tip about coming up with 10 ideas every day. That's going to be even more important as the skills obviously become
Yeah.
less valuable. Like you focus on quality instead of quantity. That's another great point. And like the final one that you touched on there is having this flexible opinion, like not being afraid of it, just using the AI. In the future, we can change our mind. If it becomes something that's against our interests, we can change our minds in our future. But it's being curious.
I think you should always have a healthy amount of skepticism for anything. This is no different. I've never fully understood anyone who writes it off entirely. But I've also never understood anybody who is evangelical about it and won't say a single bad word about it. You need to approach it with a healthy amount of skepticism.
Yeah. And that's the kind of opinion that doesn't really work on social media.
That's true.
So this is why I like enjoy having these conversations, helping people think about where they want to land on it and how they want to use it and not. Awesome. Like it's been a great chat. I'll be respectful of your time because we've almost hit an hour now. But for people who want to, I noticed that you've started a podcast. For people that want to follow you, where should they go and what should they do?
So yeah, it's a little Substack thing because of what I've just said to you. And I really do believe that people should be working harder on their minds and their creative idea generating prior. The reason that I've set up this little Substack as well to help people get better at thinking of ideas and come up with little techniques and tricks and stuff. So the Substack is just, I always forget. It's the easiest address, but I always forget it. Hold on. It's doodlejuice.substack.com. I don't know why I always forget that. I only launched it a couple of weeks ago, so there's not fat lot on there. No, but I'm updating it all the time with loads of hopefully helpful things.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate your time. I think it's been really insightful as well and hopefully slightly entertaining. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
If you like this video, you'd love our weekly newsletter. Sign up at designresources.ai.